From Ars Technica. Ancient Mars was warm and wet, not cold and icy. Kaolinite pebbles show evidence of alteration under high rainfall conditions. By Gareth Dorian, The Conversation. Present his title. He is Gareth Dorian, The Conversation. Yeah, he's like The Situation, but it's The Conversation. Yeah. That's me, The Conversation. Okay. Recent studies show that Mars was warm and wet billions of years ago. The finding contrasts with another theory that this era was mainly cold and icy. The result has implications for the idea that life could have developed on the planet at this time. Ooh, that is interesting. Whether Mars was once habitable is a fascinating and intensely researched topic of interest over many decades. Mars, like Earth, is about 4.5 billion years old, and its geological history is divided into different epochs of time. Huh. Yes, when did life come about on Earth? Was that, like, billions of years ago, too? And how does life happen, really? The latest paper relates to Mars during a time called the Noachian epoch, with extended form about 4.1 to 3.7 billion years ago. This was during a stage in solar system history called the Late Heavy Bombardment, or LHB. Evidence for truly cataclysmic meteorite impacts during the LHB are found on many bodies through the solar system. Two obvious scars from this era on Mars are the enormous Hellas and Argyre impact basins. Both are well over 1,000 miles across and each possess enough volume to hold all the water in the Mediterranean with a room to spare. Wow, that's big. And considering Mars isn't as big as Earth, like well, not like half the size of Mars, but that is like massive, like a massive hole in such a small planet. Two obvious scars. One might not imagine such a time being conducive to the existence of fragile life forms, yet it is likely to be the era in which Mars was most habitable. Evidence of landforms sculpted by water from this time is plentiful and includes dried-up river valleys, lake beds, ancient coastlines, and river deltas. That is probably the most fascinating part of that. Like we know there has been, I mean, like we know that there has been water like recently on Mars. Like it may still even be there, which is a big deal because that's like the main ingredient for building in the building blocks of life. But still, we haven't actually found any actual evidence of life. We haven't found any fossils or anything. I hope we do. That'd be really cool. Find like some kind of fossils. Like how does that even happen? Like how? I don't know. It looks, because like if you look at Mars, it looks like nothing has really even grown there ever. Because like even plant life, like you'd find like something that was there. How do you... because you can't really just wipe out all signs of life. Like, even over the course of billions of years, like, there'd still be something there. I don't know, that'd be... feels like kind of a waste if there has never been life on Mars. Yeah. The prevailing climate conditions of the Noation is still a matter of intense debate. Two alternative scenarios are typical typically posited that this time was cold and icy, with occasional melting of large volumes of frozen water by meteorite impact and volcanic eruptions, or that it was warm, wet, and largely ice-free. Brightening sun. All stars, including the sun, brighten with age. In the early solar system, during the Noation, the sun was about 30% dimmer than it is today, so less heat was reaching Mars. And all the planets, to sustain a warm, wet climate at this time, the Martian atmosphere would have needed to be very substantial, much thicker than it is today, and abundant in greenhouse gases like CO2. But when reaching high enough atmospheric pressure, CO2 tends to condense out of the air to form clouds and reduce the greenhouse effect. Given this issue, the cold, icy scenario is perhaps more believable. One of the main science goals of Mars 2020 Perseverance rover, which landed spectacularly in February 2021. Yeah, I watched that actually live on YouTube, on the NASA's channel, is to seek evidence to support either of these two scenarios, and the new paper using data from Perseverance may have done just that. Is it? It's kind of cool that we can still do that. Like, back in the day, you had to, like, everybody sat around the TV screen, like, watching the launches of spaceships, or of rocket ships. But nowadays, you can do the same thing, but it's just you can do that on the internet. Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like how people are still watching it. Like, these are actually big events in life, and you can witness it. But it's just the technology has now changed, so you can witness it in real time too. Yeah. Perseverance landed at the Martian location of Jezero Crater, which was selected as the landing site because it once contained a lake. Views of the crater from orbit show several distinct fan-shaped deposits emanating from channels carved through the crater walls by flowing water. But these channels are abundant deposits of clay minerals. So it's confirmed that there was water on Mars. And, like, there still is, too, because there's, like, some... I found, like, some... what's it called? Corrosion or something, like, on these mountains or something. That could only been done by water. But I haven't seen any rain, though. Wonder, does it actually rain on Mars? Where else would that water come from? Like, I would imagine it would, like, come up from beneath the surface or anything like that. The new paper details recent analysis of aluminum-rich clay pebbles called kaolinite, located within one of the ancient flow channels. The pebbles appear to have been subjected to intense weathering and chemical alteration by water during the Noachian. While this perhaps not surprising for a known ancient waterway environment, what is interesting is that these clays are strongly depleted in iron and magnesium, and enriched in titanium and aluminum. Very interesting. This is important because it means these rocks were less likely to have been altered in a hydrothermal environment. That means a hot... no, hydrothermal. Yeah, that means hot water. Altered in, like, a hot water environment, where scalding hot water was temporarily released by melting ice caused by volcanism or a meteorite impact. Instead, they appear to have been altered under modest temperatures and persistent heavy rainfall. So there is rain on Mars? The authors found distinct similarities between the chemical composition of these clay pebbles with similar clays found on Earth, dating from periods in our planet's history when the climate was much warmer and wetter. How much more? The paper concludes that these colinite pebbles were altered under high rainfall conditions comparable to past greenhouse climates on Earth, and that they likely represented some of the wettest intervals and possibly the most habitable portions of Mars' history. Furthermore, the paper concludes that these conditions may have persisted over time periods ranging from thousands to millions of years. Perseverance recently made headlines also for the discovery of possible biosignatures in samples it collected last year. Also from within Jezero crater. That's it. These precious samples have now been cached in special sealed containers on the rover for collection by future Mars sample return mission. Unfortunately, the mission has recently been cancelled by NASA, and so what vital evidence they may or may not contain will probably not be examined in an Earth-based laboratory for many years. So, because they know there's life on there, but they're trying to keep it from the public. Yeah. That's why they canceled it. Not because of money or anything like that. It's because they want to keep the public in the dark about aliens. Yeah. Critical to future analysis is the so-called null criterion, a concept formulated by astrobiologist Andrew Null, which states that for something to be evidence of life, an observation has to not just be explicable by biology, it has to be inexplicable without it. Whether these samples ever satisfy the null criterion will only be known if they can be brought to Earth. I hope they can do that. Either way, it is quite striking to imagine a time on Mars billions of years before the first humans walked the Earth, that a tropical climate with possibly a living ecosystem once existed in the now desolate and windswept landscape of Jezero crater. Wow. Gareth Dorian is supposed to... Oh, that's this guy. I think I'm the guy. Now that's interesting. May have actually been plants or something like plants on Mars. Although, I don't know, it just seems like when I look at it, it doesn't look like anything really even lived there, even billions of years ago. I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy. And I hope we can find out one day. Maybe before I die. I want to know, was there actually life on Mars? Like, what kind of life was it? What did it look like? What was it made up of? How did the life begin? That's what I've always wondered, just like how did like an organic thing ever come into existence? If there was nothing but like chemicals and rocks and stuff. And, like minerals and things, and even with water, like how does that turn into a living thing? Nah. Anyway, what do you think? Are you excited for the possibility of life on Mars, either in the past or present? Do you think the government is keeping it from us to keep us in the dark and to control us somehow with this knowledge? What about that big pyramid on Mars, huh? That actually turned out to be just a big mountain. What about that big face on Mars, which actually turned out to be just a cluster of mountain that kind of looks sort of like a face in that one really, really blurry photo taken many decades ago? Yeah, this is kind of cool. I want to know what this is. Hey, what do you think? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Yeah.